My name is Sima Reza. I am the CEO of Community Building Artworks. We're a nonprofit organization, which many of you know, that got our start in the military health system at Walter Reed and Fort Belvoir more than a decade ago. And the thing that I learned when I began that work was that there is nothing more important, more necessary to healing from both emotional and physical injury than community. And at the heart of community is communication. At the heart of communication is knowing what it is that you contain. And sometimes when you don't know what it is that you contain, it can be really helpful to hear someone else have the courage to voice something that you've just been circling yourself up until now. And that's what our space has been. For the past year and a half, of course, the world has been shifted by the COVID-19 pandemic. During the first week of shutdown, we moved our workshops at Walter Reed and Fort Belvoir online and opened them up to everyone, regardless of military connection. I wasn't certain that first week that anyone would come, but they did. Thousands of people from all over the world. We have one regular participant that dials in from New Zealand, and we like to say, hi, Paula from tomorrow. And it's a really, really wonderful thing. As I sat to write the afterword for the beautiful anthology that we will be celebrating tonight, the 20th anniversary of 9/11 was approaching. Last summer, the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor brought protests to cities all over the country. Earlier this year, we watched an angry mob overrun the US Capitol. Wildfires burn, smoke spreads across the western sky. Somewhere, always, something is burning. The Taliban took cities across Afghanistan as US troops were withdrawn, and 13 US service members died. We don't have a clear count of how many Afghanis were killed. We grieve. Each week, there are new reasons to grieve. And we live. We make more and more space. Annie Dillard writes in the book For the Time Being, there was never a more holy age than ours, and never a less. The darkness deepens, and we as a community pass candles. And all along the way, people help. By being here, by donating, by buying this book, you are helping. By reading these honest accounts and hearing these honest accounts, by writing your own, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow in the writing workshop, maybe it's not time, maybe in a couple months or next year, you are passing a candle. We are not alone. I'd like to begin by acknowledging how many of our veterans are in this space with us tonight, and how some parts of the past 20 years of military engagement have separated veterans from so many of us who haven't served or who aren't military family members, and how false that separation is, because they are not alone. There's a quote I read, and if you got our newsletter this morning, you read it too, and we're going to drop it in the chat here in just a moment, which is said in reconciliation ceremonies. And I'd like us tonight to say it together. We'll be asking you to unmute. It's going to drop into this chat here in just a second. We'll ask you to unmute if you're uncomfortable with that. Please, feel free to decline. And the way Zoom is, everything's in a sort of different order, and it's going to sound a little janky, and that's okay, because the truth is it's all a little messy. So the quote maybe didn't get dropped in the chat, but guess what? I can do that. Sorry for this very 2020 moment. I'm going to ask you all to unmute briefly, and then we are going to go ahead and remute you. Just a reminder, this is a space where we're really nice to each other. You don't have to be nice if you're here, but you can't stay here. So we will remove anyone who's not nice. Anyone who's been in a workshop with me knows that I don't mess around about that. So we are all unmuted. And we're going to read this together. If you're okay with that, let's go. We sent you
in the harm's way. We put you in situations that were atrocious were possible.
Share
Share
responsibility
with you
for all
that you have seen, all that you have done, reconciliation ceremonies for
to recite the above.
Thank you all for joining in that. Thank you all who are here, who have served, for the military family members among us who served as well. Tonight we're going to hear poems from the anthology, some really extraordinary work put together by a really, really extraordinary and dear person, an early member of our community, Hari Alluri. Hari Alluri took the sort of ask of, can you help me do this? I've never done it. And was like, I got you. And has put together, I think, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And we have a little printing delay, but I promise you it's worth the wait. It is an extraordinary, extraordinary book that I can't wait to have in my hands and to mail to each and every one of you. So warm welcome to Hari. I'll be right here if you have any questions. Hari, thank you.
Thanks, folks. Thank you, Seema. I just want to say that, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was on forced quarantine, and I found out that Seema was doing this in the mornings, at the time for me in the mornings, and I struggled to get up, but I showed up like over and over and over again. It turned out to be something I really needed, and I've felt that need with a lot of folks who are in this room and beyond. The pieces in this anthology, they dance with each other. As a student said to me too recently, sometimes poems hold hands with each other. And they do that not just because there's lineage in them. Some of these poems are written and inspired by other poems, but they were also written in the same space of time with each other. They were written side by side while sitting across the distance of quarantine. The anthology wanted to be arranged loosely by time because of the way that one poem inspired by another wanted to sit with its ancestor, and the echoes wanted to be explicit. And the poems and pieces and prose pieces found more and more echoes than any of us could have predicted. I just want to thank everyone who's here in this room, to welcome We Were Not Alone into the world. I'm just going to turn to the contributors for a minute, whose words I'm grateful to and which I'm glad to hear in their voices today and beyond. Like I have seen these pieces over and over, they have seen this message, but I want them to hear it in my voice. Dear contributors, it is with such joy that we share with you that the anthology is almost ready. It's been a joy to work with all of you and to share time with your words these past months. Even as I felt its emergence throughout, I'm still awed by how powerful this anthology turned out. I want to give a quick shout out to the reading and selection team. Wherever you're at, you don't have to unmute yourself, but please make some noise where you're at, and we'll pretend that they can all hear it. When I say Amelia Bain, Shuli Sochil, Kaywood, Preeti Kaur, Dollywall, Dartinia Hull, Arthur Kazakian, Diana Osborne, Martha Peterson, Eric Schwab, Ben Weekly, Kendra Whitfield, and Maiden Wood. There is no way this anthology would exist without you. Also, Garrett Bryant, who designed the anthology, who's in the house. And I will save one more name for a second from now because I'm going to introduce him as the next person on. But the way the show is going to go is we're going to go We're going to go kind of like fast open mic style. I'm just going to name the person who's about to read and the person who's on deck afterwards. And please keep an eye on the chat. In the chat will be the bio of the person who's reading. One thing we do in community building artworks and beyond is we show love to the lines and the moments that like excite us and move us and trouble us. And so I'm going to welcome us to keep that practice going tonight. If there is a moment that moves you, please feel free to quote it or paraphrase it and throw it into the chat so that afterwards the person who read it can go back and see their words reflected from you. Welcome you all to do that. And without further ado, the person whose art is on the front cover and who will be walking us in, Joe Merritt, co-founder of Community Building Artworks. I'm going to leave the bio up to that, but I'm so grateful to speak Joe Merritt's name into the room. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you so much, Hari. Thank you everybody for coming out and hanging out with us tonight on Veterans Day. I know there's a lot of mattress discounts you're probably missing out on right now because you guys are here with us. And I cannot say how thankful I am for that. I came into this work back in like 2011 or 2012 when I was still on active duty. And I was in an outpatient program for PTSD, recently back from Afghanistan. I got put in this room with this little tiny person who was like, "You guys are gonna write," and I was like, "No, I'm not." And, well, that was Seema Reza, and that workshop saved my life, along with all the other art workshops that were available at the time. And I had the privilege of, after I got out, contributing more as a facilitator at Walter Reed and Belvoir, and I'm honored to be able to continue doing this work. I was asked to do something for the cover when we first pitched the idea of this anthology. And, I was like, it's such a beautiful big body of work. It needs like an illustrated book to really capture everybody's individual stories. There wasn't like one defining image that I could think of. So I thought about it for a little bit, and this idea kept coming back to me. That barbed wire that runs along the bottom, something that you often associate with boundaries or war or a defense or something that divides us. But there's so many things that don't care about that, like birds. Birds are like, "Oh, your boundary, screw your boundary. I'm gonna go hang out on this boundary. I'm gonna hang out with my friends on this boundary. I'm gonna call more friends and they're gonna come over and hang out on your boundary." And I think that that's really what this work encompasses. We all come from different backgrounds, different types of birds, some seabirds, some loud birds, some quiet birds, and we're all coming together to share our stories, break down those boundaries, and create communities around them. So thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. I'm going to read a quick poem that I wrote a while ago that I think is fitting for today, Armistice Day and Veterans Day. It's called Gunfight in the Museum. Look through glass eyes into the past. Placard marked musket ball versus arrowhead, the War of 1812. Stare at the scabbard. Intricately etched blood grooves shined and polished just below where the cannonball shattered hilt in hand. Displayed is no hand. There's no record of the wedding band, no callus of building a home from earth, no shadow of hands placed inside his prior to detachment. A German Ruger displayed at waist level. Look down at it. We won because it is lesser, because they were lesser, the glass table says. There's helos suspended in air and time, fresh paint on calm mannequins, mute the bullet holes in fear. The guns show no ammo, no targets, no rice paddies or huts. How how its barrel shines. Cold War displays pictures of bombs and silos like cornfields. No pictures of the people starving while hammered and sickled, or their enemies, us, US, who fought for our own rights while our governments drew lines against each other. City streets riot against lines drawn in ignorance. My war shows no trophy, no regalia or painted weapons, mass destructive or otherwise. For the GWAT, it just shows twisted metal beams of trade towers past and a flag from the Pentagon that wouldn't fall. When they put our firefights in the museum, don't pour the sand from our cloth or patch the holes in the trucks. Leave the severed hands attached to steering wheels so the world can see we don't control where we're going. When you stare through the glass at that flag, don't forget who we are. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Joe. Amazing, amazing. Lines drawn in ignorance. My war shows no trophy. How it mute the bullet holes, how its barrel shines. We have up next Rachelle Heath, and after Rachelle on deck, getting ready, will be Anthony Almondera. Thank you all. Please welcome Rachelle Heath to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Before I read my poem for the evening, I just want to take a moment to express immense gratitude to Hari, to Seema, to everyone at CBAW. You know, when this pandemic started, I did feel quite alone. And then these amazing virtual communities appeared, and it was like this warm hug that felt quite real. And I was invited to the space by someone who I consider to be a part of my family now, the lovely Hari and Lori. And this poem was written in Joe Merritt's workshop. And I am just sitting in a space of great gratitude to all of these wonderful facilitators and artists who have created these safe spaces for us to be able to express everything that's happening within us during this very unprecedented time. So the work I'll be sharing with you today is called If We Could Once Upon a Time. Once we carried many bags of gunpowder to smash against the concrete to make the loudest sound, one that would drown out our celebratory laughter. Once you handed me a poem about a wolf, and I wrapped it in snakeskin, braced it with silver wire and an amethyst stone, and wore it at my throat as a talisman. Once I gathered short tufts of my hair, twisting each between my fingers before donning it with a shell until my head was like a shaker ring. I, the dancer, I, the drum. Once I sat in a workshop and hammered silver into the four directions, into butterfly wings, into pure prana, into us. Once we were kids, once we were friends, once we were lovers, once we were released. Once a fork traded for a spoon, something rounder, fuller, smoother, we could feed each other without threat. Once you gave the moon, and I howled with delight, and we remembered ourselves into river, into song, into the belly of the shell. Thank you, everyone.
Ooh-wee. Yes, wow, Faisal, you said it. We remembered ourselves into river. I sat in a workshop and hammered. We could feed each other without threat. Hammered silver in four directions into butterfly wings. Thank you, Rachelle. Up next, we have Anthony Almondera, and following Anthony, we will be having Elizabeth Hassler on deck. Thank you, Anthony.
Before I start my poem, I wanted to say thank you to everyone in the audience, and thank you to CBAW and everybody putting this together. Before I started this program, I never really grasped that old writing, footprints in the sand, you know, and I was thinking, that doesn't make sense until I met Seema. That's the one that carried me in my time of need. To have somebody holding your hand during a real point in your life, and to be able to share that space with everybody else while doing it and feel safe is something that I've had very few instances in my personal life to be able to express that way. So I'm eternally grateful for this organization and everybody that's involved with it. And the poem I'm going to read is called 13 Bodies. I'm not a veteran of a military service, but I do fight a war on a different front line. So here we go. 13 bodies. A day in the life of a pandemic paramedic. What is a soul to someone who watches them depart like flights out of JFK? Red and blue lights, sirens wailing, families sobbing. Medics with their 1,000-yard stare. PPE, hopefully protecting them from catching feelings. All that they were, all they will ever be. All things are now equal. As they lay agape, maybe for the first time, their eyes wide open. We remove the tube as his last spit drips off. His last remaining healthy microbes fleeing, trying to find refuge from what is to come. Bearing witness, not knowing what to do and what I was exactly trying to save. Wipe off the equipment as another flight leaves for its mysterious destination. I remove my glasses, thankful for the blurriness. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anthony. Thankful for the blurriness, trying to find refuge, bearing witness, maybe the first time, their eyes wide open. That first line, folks felt so
Thank
much. I'm very grateful to Anthony, and I'm very grateful to be welcoming Elizabeth Hassler up next, followed by Anne Barlieb. Thank you, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to say that I'm so glad to be reading with you all. And I think, like a lot of people here, I have found such refuge in workshops, and then in the pandemic, specifically online workshops. And as a disabled person who's sometimes been housebound before the pandemic, I think there's like a special resonance and in the ways that we create these online spaces and the ways that we imagine connection, even though there can be all these barriers. I think that community building artworks creates phenomenal spaces for people to connect. And I'm not a veteran, and I'm not a lot of different things, but I am connected, and I do get to be connected. And that's I want to say that's a wonderful thing, but that doesn't quite cover it. Anyway, and this is a piece that I wrote in a community building artworks workshop. I think it was the first one I went to, and it's called Krill, which is after a poem by I'm gonna butcher his name, but so Mahidin, who is we'll see how his name is actually pronounced later in the evening, because he's going to read later, but it's after his poem Ghazal for the Diaspora. Krill, to temper the grief, imagine the body alighted, imagine the colors, clothes, tints under your knuckles, white, your hunger, handing, throating, eyeing. Trust your overhang to taste and know your thirst, your first, your recent bursted skin. What do you want? Where is your mouth? The mouth at the base of your spine will say, we are what really happened. Or no, we aren't. We are the hung between. We are what clothes hangers come for. When we have clothed you enough, will you rip up the story that tells who baked gas gap in the sheet cake of your spine? That's why a mouth lives there, to fulfill promise surrounding own sweetness and fizz, pop, umami hiss. You are a baleen whale sifting through lakes you've undrowned in, unvolcanoes, and all your unavoided breaths. for fragments you can eat to temper the grief. Imagine your spine, a lighted, promised, all birthday candle come through, come true, measure heat, mouth, mouth trill, till mouth, still mouth, mouth thrill exacted shiny. What do you know about tempering?
Oof. Elizabeth, sheet cake of your spine, fragments you can eat to temper the grief, to fulfill promise surrounding sweetness. We are what clothes hangers come for. We'll rip up story when we have closed you enough. Thank you. Thank you so much. I made a mistake in my preparation earlier. My apologies, Kevin Bassel. If you are ready, you will please be hopping up next. And then we will have the amazing Anne Barlieb. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you everyone for being with us. Kevin.
Sure, thank you. And congrats to Seema, Hari, Joe, and the whole CBAW community for publishing this beautiful anthology. I'm so honored to be included. I'll say I facilitated and participated in a few online workshops while everything was shut down for the pandemic last year. And it was such a pleasure to get to meet new people, to share poems, to laugh together during such a difficult time. So I'm going to read my poem that's included in the anthology. It's short and sweet, maybe more accurately, short and salty. This is called Camaraderie, Iraq 2005. It's July, and I have not had a drink in 6 months, except something called Coors, non-alcoholic malt beverage. Nevertheless, I feel hungover, riding in the Humvee with Doc and listening to new metal. We do not know where we are going. We are just patrolling. If I hold my mouth open for too long, my tongue will turn to sandpaper. Yet I do not drink water because my piss bottle is already full of Doc's snuff spit. He smiles at me. At any moment, something could explode. Thank you.
Kevin. At any moment, something could explode. My tongue will turn to sandpaper. Yet I do not drink water. We do not know where we are going. So much in it. So grateful to be welcoming Anne Barlieb to share with us next. And following Anne will be Arthur Kazakian. Anne, please take us away.
I just wanted to first, of course, thank everybody for showing up and spending this time with us. The Friday afternoon writing group has become for me a place of refuge. And somebody posed a question recently to a group of military writers and said, do you think you'd be a writer if you weren't in the military? And I said, I think I would have most definitely have become a writer, but I wouldn't have become this kind of writer. And I think when we expand that to any serious way of life that involves service, those of us that are called to write and do the work of mining that life experience to find the wisdom and then share it, have really only done half the service that we're called to do. And I'm so grateful for the people that hold the space around a table where we can come and share life experiences. The poem that I'm going to share is about the loss of my father earlier this year in March. And we knew that he was going to die. He had stage 4 lung cancer. And in our group, one of my fellow writers was also losing her father several months ahead of me. And as I would sit there and listen to her kind of respond to the prompts and talk about her dad and the funeral and the preparations, I felt like I was strapping up and she was the chalk leader jumping from the airplane. And I just followed her. And it's been such a gift to help me get through these last couple of months. So this is an excerpt from a 3-part poem. It's called A Pilgrimage of Many Truths. My mother's making a pilgrimage through the house and around my father, now confined to a hospital bed in what used to be the back room. The living room turned dying room, all in one breath at once. I can imagine the TV bolted to the paneled wall, making noise about current events, vaccines, stimulus checks, and Rush Limbaugh dead from lung cancer at 70. None of it relevant to or registering in what's left of my father's life now, as a morphine bag hangs suspended, waiting and not waiting. Morphine doesn't know of waiting. My mother's handwriting changed in the last few years, in the last few months especially. The cards she sends are like mile markers along a declining road that feels like it could get steep around the next corner or two. Children forge their way uphill when parents are forced down. Atop, we find the water stain of a tide that's risen and been washed back out to sea, the height an exact match to that of the witness, perfectly level. I ask her how she's doing. Your father's fading away, she tells me. I lean into the silence. We're drinking a lot of orange juice. I lean further into the silence. Your father's been very thirsty, wakes me up a few times in the night wanting a drink. I don't mind it. Leaning further. I'll have to go get more of the juice because we're almost out. I lean still further, thinking my mother is 80 years old today. And I'm nearly the age my parents were when they adopted me 40 years ago. I'm tired. Silence turns hesitation. I'm not sure if it's hers or mine. But we all get tired, don't we? Isn't that normal? As if asking this question to herself, she sighs an exasperated sigh, perhaps its own answer. You don't have to be the strong one, my therapist told me, her voice in my head now, because like morphine, mercy doesn't know of waiting. Your mother is losing her husband, and it must be hard. This is true, of course, and there are many truths revealed in total losses like death. I hang up and cry a long, hard cry, as we do in these great pilgrimages, bent over, my head in my hands, because I'm losing the father I had and who he was. Because I'm losing the father I didn't have and who he wasn't. Because of the mother I have, because of the mother I have not. Because of everything this is right now and all that it can't be. Because of who I am, because of who I haven't been. Because I have yet to become all that I am, if ever. Because this is change and I have no choice but to adapt along with it. Because who among us doesn't have life-altering, crippling, adverse childhood experiences sometime during the course of our lives? Because long journeys, traveled slowly, still turn so quickly to who knows where, and feeling the loss or injustice of many truths makes pilgrims of us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Makes pilgrims of us all. I have no choice. Who among us? I'm losing the father I didn't have, as we do in these great pilgrimages. The morphine doesn't know of waiting, the moment with the tide, all of it. Thank you, Anne. I am so grateful to be welcoming Arthur to the stage, after which we will have a video from John Sands. Can't wait for y'all to hear Arthur.
Hey family, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you, Seema, Hari, Amanda, Joe, Garrett, all of CBOC community. Guys, I'll be attending CBOC workshops as long as they continue. These workshops have been so healing for me during isolation in so many ways that there's no time enough for me to tell you during this this time, right? But maybe over a conversation another, right? The poem I'm going to read, Hari facilitated the workshop that day, and And I just want to say that this workshop on that day, it resisted secrecy and individual effort. And what I mean by that, it because it celebrated collaboration and intimacy. C-ball workshops kind of remind me of MC ciphers, where we all stand and we just essentially create, right, in real time, and where one piece elevates the other. And in that way, we are all bound. Guys, I was born during a war and I've written much about it, but with CBA, it helped me come to terms and make sense of my past, especially because of the people in this room and those who are not here today, having the courage to split open and share with us. So this poem is a synthesis fused from community elevation. And it's called Translation. As in the night that wrecked my hands, a city of crows daggered through the sky, as in a skull of complex nightmares, the black owl of my mouth, a box of dreams for strangling, as in hope, as in my mother's voice, as in we avoided the mouth of a door forced open, as in the quiet voice of God crashing through the lifeless, a separation, animal from spirit, from Gentani to Hoki, as in salt turns an ocean nocturnal with its smallness. The night between us has a restless gap, as in birds flutter, as in cage, as in a wild hive of prayers under my breath, as in we live just one more breath with segments of light, as in we live in a city dragged to the sea by the hands of its night, as in the sugar of a dying language, the scent of ash and a bashed in door, as in smoke rings blown from the mouth of a glorified general, as in river, then a slice of jail, of wine stain, the torture of praying, as in history, as in we wait with white men for metal doors to slide open, as in instead of anger, we have flower petal weight on our shoulders, as in psychedelic. It's okay, we smile. It's not okay, we know, as in more red than music, more curtains dropped on our homes than nightfall, as in memory, as in the threaded rasp of my mother's voice cloaks the siren. She walks closer to me, ever slowly dropping parts of her dark sky. As in, instead of radio, a ghost picks up a stream, a frequency foreign to the ear, as in we are foreign stones who have turned to wishes without promise, as in we flee, we dance, moonwalk in our shadows, as in we fall, as in we fall through our mother's lies for safety, as in we live beneath the yellow death of sun, our language, a summer bomb mixed with extinction. As in, I was delivered from war when my mother fired up her lie barricaded in her breast to save me. As in, bandana. As in, these days I feel ill-gotten, which is to say I'm rugged, as in I stare at a painting before I take it with me, as in my friends call me the Armenian Persianist, as in an immigrant with a junkyard smile, as in my friends dressed like wolves, as in joy has been swept to an aftermath of bodies mangled, as in ill, as in cough from the small of my delicate son, as in touch, as in we lock lips under the flicker of lights in a dim-walled hallway, as in my crime is not so much in denying my hunger, but the great extent I went to hide my ability for loss, as in the war, as in on us, as in the nights a city howls in honor of its body count, as in the cemetery has grown jealous of the city and the evening tucked in its blade so the sunset could live. Thank you.
I'm going to read some of this back. The night a city howls in honor of its body count, as in, I feel ill-gotten, From the small of my delicate son, joy has been swept to an aftermath of bodies. I'm not going to read all the way up. What I will say though is, y'all, I am like, I'll just tell you the phrase "as in" is continuously sneaking into my poems, and I literally am like, oh, there goes Arthur again. So I just want to give y'all a shout out right there. I am looking forward for us to listen to John Sands over video. I just want to, like, because of a bunch of things coming together and because we have a video break, I just want to read out real quick the 4 sections of the book, and they're each of them is taken from quotation from a different author, and I just think, having heard a chunk of what we have, you'll feel these section titles. So, "Let Memory Graze," which is from a poem by Qasim Haddad, translated by Khalid Matawa. "Your Own Gestures and Symbols," from a quotation from Muriel Ruckhiser. "Let Grief," which is from Mary Oliver. And you also heard, Seema quote from Annie Dillard, and "Everyone in Every Age." All right, I'm going to step back and let John Sands take it away, after which I'll be very happy to invite the next reader. I'll message them. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy and excited to be reading in support of this anthology. I'm so grateful to Seema and Hari for all of the incredible work that it's taken to put it out. And I do want to shout out CBAW, which is an organization that I think is absolutely indispensable, and what it is to provide the kind of literary and writing services both to veterans and to a larger community as well, is so important. And they have such a vast number of facilitators with such different expertise. But I also want to talk about how powerful it is that they're consistent, and what it is, that necessary ingredient in any literary community, to be consistent and to say, this is our programming. It's going to happen every single week. These are our facilitators. They're going to be here. It's just really, really powerful, and it seems simple, but it is anything but. And so the communities that you all have helped build, I'm just so grateful for them, and also to be a part of it. So here is my poem from the anthology. It's called "It's a Lot." It's a lot to open your eyes in the morning, to taste your own unbrushed mouth, to hear thousands of voices and believe your own. It's a lot to lose even one friend, to not be heard, or to be heard and still be paranoid that people hate you. It's a lot to put your heart on another's train tracks, to not take a loved one hostage with your own fear, with what you don't want to know about yourself. Once, to explain how cold I'd become, I confessed my love to a friend who did not love me back. I felt the words leave my chest, genuine, desperate, gone. It was a lot. Con Ed bills, job applications, small talk, a lot to shake hands, raise eyebrows, debate about basketball, eye contact over beer. It's a lot to hide behind a new shirt, old jeans, to grow a beard or eat a whole pizza, to practice restraint or to jog voluntarily. It's a lot to remember a birthday, let alone purchase a card and mail it, to love people as imperfect as you are. It's a lot to not get your feelings hurt, to let emotions pass through you, to see your mother look like your grandmother. It's all very necessary, but it is still a lot. To say, I've been good as a mannerism, to say, I haven't as a fact. It's a lot as well to include the good things, to not make a caricature of your sadness, to only get your jump shot so good and still to have it fall left to attend the dentist. It's a lot to be a good husband, an inattentive uncle, to not know how to respond to an email. So to say nothing, it's a lot, maybe the most, to say nothing. Yes, to say nothing, and therefore continue holding that nothing inside you. That is by far the most. Thank you.
Big thank you to John Sands. Yes, that piece is wow. To not make a caricature of your sadness, to say I've been good as a mannerism, to love people as imperfect as they are, to see your mother look like your grandmother. Thank you. And the transition to Kim's piece, I think you'll feel. I'm so glad to be inviting Kim. I got to the meeting before you did. I want you to know that, Kim. I think it's very important that you know that. Welcome, Kim DeFiore, everybody. And after that, we'll have Aisa to Sunja. Actually, after that, we'll have Hari Alluri. Hari Alluri, get ready. You're on deck. You're after Kim.
All right. I'm glad Hari woke up on time for this one performance. But yeah, I got to meet Seema a while ago. It was probably the darkest time of my life at Walter Reed. I was about 30 days before going to a psychiatric hospital for about 45 days. And she just, I'm not like Anne. I would have never become a writer. I almost failed English, not only once, but twice at West Point. And so writing was not something ever in my future, but Seema just kind of has this way of pulling it out of even the most hesitant people. And I think veterans especially, we just have a lot in there. And after this year, we all do. And if you're like, hey, I want to go to a workshop, but I'm just not a writer, challenge you, you can write whatever you want. And Seema always says, if you have a choice between writing what's honest and something you can share, write what's honest. And even if it's a mess, it's your mess, you're never pressured to share. So just encourage all those to get out there. You don't ever have to submit it for publication. It's more about processing emotions and the things we can't speak. Sometimes we just can say them in a written word. And especially after this last year, I don't really know anyone that can give a speech to cover all that, but thank you. And so this is how our workshops always work. We'd have a poem and then we'd respond to them. So you'll see a lot of plagiarism in this from his poem. So that's kind of how we do it. We plagiarize and then we have our own thoughts. So it's pretty fun. All right. It's called Reasons to Live. It's a lot to wake up and put my uniform on, to brush away the alcohol breath and make time for lunch. It's a lot to read emails and answer calls, to drudge home in the evenings and eat anything but ramen and canned corn. It's a lot to stay sober at night with the only house guest of guilt and shame. And if I'd done more, he'd be alive today. Hope is at the end of this barrel, the only true way I know to end the pain. The voices of the past are deafening. Miller Lite doesn't quiet them anymore. It's a lot to write a note explaining my end, to consider the next life and not have to carry it anymore. Hope is putting a magazine in the gun, chambering around and flicking the lever of fate, and a flood of relief as I prepare for the end. Surely these house guests won't follow me there. It's a lot to live, to breathe. Hope is my dog making his way across the room, standing in front of me, insisting I connect. By placing this lying heap of metal down and embracing his life instead. It's a lot finding a reason to live.
It's a lot finding a reason to live. Hope is my dog making his way across the room. Surely these house guests won't follow me. Surely it's a lot to live, to breathe. It's a lot to write a note. All of this. Hope is at the end of this barrel. Thank you, Kim, every time. My name is Hari. and I'm going to be reading a piece called Blessing Wednesday. Here we go. Oh yeah, on deck after me will be Aisa Tu Sunjata, after which will be Faisal Mohiuddin. Once again, my name is Hari. Blessing Wednesday. Bless the dreams that let me ease rare into my waking, the miracle of a stress wafting as the cat's tail to her bowl. Bless the third time out the front door. Bless the cafe's chocolate croissants that didn't make it in, the barista's 6 a.m. cheeky laugh at my guess I'll take this misery with me as I go. Bless my failed attempts at grace. Bless the final giving in to dancing later as I cut another lawn. Bless the tired hour, extending a slightly shorter day. A sun that doesn't quite break through the clouds at highest noon. Bless big tune behind big tune. Bless the casual single back up to the trailer, the fall in hitch, the ditch I miss, the worm I miss it by, the ever-loving earth I hit to stretch my trimmer line, to free dirt of my boots, getting a little closer to anywhere I have to go. Bless and bless the coworker who reads my mind and throws me the keys, the one who leaves a mess I have to clean, the one who snarks the second one to make the first one laugh. Bless, I've been all three. Bless, bucket and rake, bent machine and hole in tarp. Bless, I'll get right on it. Bless, unwanted, the definition of weeds. Bless living's sometimes gentle greed. Bless horsetail, rhizome root, the sideways and the deep indigenous refusal to be uprooted. Bless the healing in the leaf I've never used, the effortlessness I cultivate, the lie of effortless. Bless the brown woman at the chevron till. Bless she slept enough. Bless while I fill my coffee cup, our under banter, our at racism jabs. Bless break petal. Bless petal. Bless pollen like a snowdrift. The lighter I don't bless it with, the sneezes I do. This city refusing to bless the ground with any cherry trees but male, a widespread policy of no free food, this patriarchy of taming, of grow what takes and take what grows, of uproot the low, of keep the love of nature from over springing forth, bless it into something else. The pain the city causes, bless with liniment, bless with horsetail salve all our muscle ache and sweat, bless the epicenter, bless fractured caress. Thank you. I'm going to be welcoming us to Aisa Tu Sunjata, after which we will have Faisal Mohiuddin. Thank you so much, everybody.
Greetings. I'm a disabled veteran, contemporary recluse, sequestered senior, and thanks to Siva, Seema, and Hari, a member of the creative community. Each week we wade in the water together, and I am not alone. Thank you. This poem is titled Rumination. There are times sitting here on red flannel sheets, and I flutter from dreams, sequestered from the outside world by choice, age, and medical ailments. I long to shave off some years, like the street vendor remembered in youth, yelling for children and their money to join him. He scraped blocks of ice into paper cone-shaped cups. What flavor syrup? He would ask. Pour a sweet rainbow choice over crushed ice, while seeing how much more money by heads and in pockets behind a temporary leader. Want to return to a time when even I questioned my existence, whether cells and an egg met by mistake to form me. Perhaps I was supposed to be something else, a firefly declaring presence by lighting the way. Maybe a butterfly transforming itself before stillness, or a dragonfly skimming over shimmering ripples with minimum effort, knowing its life cycle brief. It must live in the moment, embrace it all, its natural evolution. Death looms at its birth, in between, fancy its life of purpose and gaiety in the same dance. Want to be that being one who dances in the face of inevitability instead of wearing age like a well-worn housecoat, whose still functioning snaps secure with firmness, though now its rose printed faded by time, washing, and wear. I want to become it before it faced old age, when it was new, crisp, and its snaps shiny, when it had not yet formed to a body silhouette, promised what it would never truly provide for long: warmth, security against exposure to harshness. It will not last, in time begin to wear thin, return to being tattered fabric. I want my ending to become something more than simply death. Let it become a beginning, rebirth. My soul sometimes imagines impossibility. Another few years left of life. Let me live my life again before gray hair and weary limbs, wrinkles permanently etched on my flesh, were signs of my life and many unkept promises. Not even a wave of God's wand can now alter.
Isa 2, let me live my life again. Let it become a beginning. I want my ending to become something more. Security against exposure to hardness when it had not yet formed to a body silhouette. Thank you. I'm so grateful also to be inviting Faisal to come take the stage. Y'all, he was holding the workshop and helping us through our pieces, and he wrote this at the same time as that happened. So that's what happened there. Please welcome Faisal. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Hari. I wrote a draft of it. So I think like all of us, what we do in the workshop, I remember the participants that were there in the one that I led, like blew me away. I was like, how is that possible in like 30 minutes? And then I realized that's how powerful the community is. And I think Arthur, you mentioned it earlier that each person builds on what the other person is doing, and it's not just, it's like more than collaboration. And so I think that's what I'm feeling tonight. And Seema and Joe and Hari and Garrett and everyone else at CBAW, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this community. And I've met a few people in person. I led a workshop a couple of years back in Maryland, and I think Kim, you were there. So it's been amazing to see how amazing the workshops have been in the virtual universe. So I also have to say thank you to Elizabeth. To know that my poem inspired that beautiful poem is really humbling, and it's an honor. And I really appreciate you having done that. So thank you, everyone. So I'm going to read a poem I wrote for Seema and for the Community Builders Artworks community. So that's everybody that is here. So the workshop I led was on acrostics, and we did like gratitude acrostics. So you write a poem to someone to whom you wanted to express gratitude, and it would be their name. And so the acrostic here is Seema Raza. So it's 9 lines, and the title is a long one. It's because seeking can help a person be found, and because they must first learn how to seek. And this is for all of you. Some days we wake, our hearts unwell, heavy clouds dimming every bright thought's bright refulgence, rendering our bodies empty, unrested, ache-ridden, and scant. Yet we know we must mask the pain, upcast ourselves, shoulder through the storms, find another source of light toward which to turn our faces, and learn to rely on seeking to lessen the blight, to discover the gifts of energy and hope that take the shape of dear friends like all of you. Zillions of people on this hard, brutal earth, yet only some who act like a steadfast sun, whose radiant giving guides us through. Thank you.
Thank you. Yet some who act like a steadfast sun rely on seeking to lessen the blight, shoulder through the storms, find another source of light, unmask the pain, ache-ridden and scant. Thank you so much, Faisal. We have another video for y'all. I will be bringing us all to make some noise after the video, after which we will have, or actually we're gonna have Seema just like say some things after the video. So Mahogany L. Brown, who's in the anthology, please welcome. Thank you all very much.
Hi, my name is Mahogany L. Brown, and I am so excited to be here celebrating CBAW and Seema Reza. Seema is one of the most profound curators, producers, executive directors, writers, community advocates. She is the reason I am here today, the reason most of us are, if I'm honest. And it is my honor and pleasure and duty to read this piece from the now defunct manuscript and book, Redbone. It's called Redbone Dances. If you ain't never watched your parents kiss, ain't never have them teach you about the way the lips will to bend and curve against a lover's affirmation, if you ain't never watched the knowing nod of sweethearts worn away and soft, 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 as a speaker box's blown out hiss, if you ain't witnessed the glue that connected your mother and father, how they fused their single selves into the blunt fist of parents, if you ain't sure there was a time when their eyes held each other like a nexus, breaking the lock to dip dark marbles into certain corners of a shot glass, if you ain't never known a Saturday night slick with shiny promises and clouds wrapped wet in a Pendergrass croon, if you ain't been taught how a man can hold you close, so close, it looked like a crawl, if you ain't had the memory of your mother and father sliding hip to hip, their feet whisper a slow shuffle and shift, her hand on his neck, grip the shoulder of a man that will pass his daughter's bad tempers and hands like bowls. If you ain't watched a man lean into a woman, his eyes a boat sliding across bronze, his hands pillared in her auburn hair, her throat holds the urge to hear how her voice sounds against the wind of him. If your skin can't fathom the heat of something as necessary as this, then you can't know the hurricane of two bodies. How the bodies can create the prospect of a sunrise, how that sunrise, you gotta name it, sounds like a blues song or a woman's heart breaking. From the record player, skipping, the sky, almost blue. Thank you so much for letting me share. Thank you so much for this amazing anthology, this necessary work, this huge undertaking. CBAW, we are family. I am so, so honored to be here. Peace.
Yeah, y'all. The sky is almost blue. It was electric. Somebody said bodies create this prospect of sunrise. Your skin can't fathom the heat of something as necessary as this. Seema, I believe you want me to pass you the microphone here for a minute.
Yes, please. What a beautiful evening. I want to share a poem that I couldn't have written without this work, without some of the people who you heard from today, especially Kevin Basil and Joe Merritt, who started this conversation with me. The poem is called Quartering, and it begins with a little epigraph from the United States Constitution. It's called Quartering. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. That's the Third Amendment of the US Constitution. When the soldier knocks on your door, billet book in hand, move aside to let him enter. He will wipe his feet, remove his hat. You'll learn to call it a cover. He will be polite, place his rifle by the door. Treat him with reverence. Keep your fear hidden from view. When the question of whether he's killed bubbles up in your throat, thank him instead for his service. Say you can't imagine the sacrifice. When little streams of sand pour out of his pockets and form mountains on your floor, be gracious. Look away while he sweeps the grains back into the creases they emerged from. Make small talk with the soldier you are quartering. Invite him to eat with the family. Make space for him in front of the television. Catch him up on celebrity gossip he missed at war. Offer to make up the couch, though it is likely he will decline and unroll his sleeping bag. He's grown unused to comfort. He will have identified weaknesses in your floor plan and adjusted for them. Insist on providing a pillow to ease your conscience. If you come out for a glass of water in the middle of the night, see the orange pill bottles lined up on the granite counter. He may tell you what they're for, or you can guess when your children complain at breakfast about their sleep interrupted by his night terrors. Shush them. Order a noise machine to obstruct his screams. Tell them this is only temporary. When he steps out to smoke a cigarette in the dark, try not to see the glowing deposits of depleted uranium beneath his skin, turning his body into a constellation of half-lives. Soon you will call a warning before you switch on the garbage disposal and coffee grinder. Apologize when the door slams, reassure him when the neighbor's car backfires. Never leave the door unlocked. He will begin to tell you stories in which violence is the setting, not the point. A piece of the landscape of the places he has visited. Then he'll tell you what he knows about death. Do not flinch. If he cries, nod. You notice yourself worrying when America bobs in place, watching the world, ready to pounce like a double Dutch champion. The word troops means something different when you're quartering a soldier. You may notice him making plans, initiating conversations, sitting down more often to beat the kids at video games. His laughter less a cough, his anger more a flash of lightning than a storm. You will wish to share the burden. Sleep without the sound barrier, hear his cries in the night. For all his straight back composure, he is no machine. Lie awake and wonder if this is worth the tax incentives. You're in too deep now, but remember your words. This is only temporary. Orders will arrive and his bag, never fully unpacked, will be shut tight, his boots laced, his dusty rifle cleaned. Feel the tension in his parting embrace, the recoil as he adjusts his cover and looks away from your tears. Realize your every act of kindness has been an act of war. There are 19 million veterans in the United States today. And we did a little math earlier and thought, as a sort of conservative estimate, that maybe 55,000 have been through our workshops since we began way back at the old Walter Reed. It is a lot, but it is not enough. I look forward to growing this organization with your help, but I cannot do it. We cannot do it without your help. We have a really, really beautiful team of poets and people ready to make this work continue. So please stay connected. Your voice is necessary. Your support is necessary. Spread the word about the workshops, about the anthology, and let us know if you have any ideas for how we can get to more people, more veterans, more civilians, more healthcare workers. And maybe it starts with you. And that's a really fine, great start. So if you haven't been to a workshop, I'll see you tomorrow, 12 p.m. Link is about to be in the chat. Y'all know about voluntelling. Thank you, each and every one of our performers. Hari Alluri for his incredible work. Our board members who are here on this call and keep this machine running. Amanda Kelly, who's a black box here, has been running this behind the scenes. And to each and every one of you who came tonight and witnessed this. It wasn't easy, it was beautiful. But beautiful things aren't always easy. And that's a really hard lesson in a world of Instagram to learn. So thank you. Your attention is the most precious commodity. And for you to share it with us tonight means a whole lot. Please be well, take good care.
Make some noise where you're at.
Make some noise where you're, maybe, yeah, make some noise where you're at. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And we're gonna drop these links here. Please do follow us also on social media. There's a new link to order the book. And do follow us on social media here. Thank you to each and every one of the beautiful facilitators / poets. You know, long ago when I started, somebody very accusingly asked me, who's running these groups? Somebody didn't like the mess I was making and the noise that I was creating in a corner of a military hospital. And my answer then is the same as my answer is today. Every single one of us is running these groups. It's not just me. I might be the instigator, but every single person who shows up, every single one of you who is here with us tonight, ran this show, made it possible, made it what it was. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great night, everyone.